Heartwarming moment, millionaire discovers amazing truth after seeing twins left alone at shelter. Jake Anderson stood at the entrance of the Maplewood Community Shelter, the sign above dangling loosely. Today, the picturesque town of Maplewood was more vibrant than usual, the fields glowing gold against the brilliant blue sky. Yet, for Jake, a self-made millionaire who had spun his tech startup into something dazzling, this aura of happiness felt like a distant film he could no longer reach. Behind the glossy facade of success lay a hollowness, a yearning for connection that eluded him. As he stepped inside, the scent of coffee mingled with the laughter of children, a stark reminder of laughter shared in the local diner with friends from simpler times. In the corner, twin sisters, Mia and Lily, captured his attention. Clutching each other close, their innocent, wide eyes darted around, revealing uncertainty that should never belong to children. In that moment, their vibrant spirit ignited something deep within Jake, bringing forth memories of his own struggles growing up. The protective instinct surged as he approached them. "Hey there, what's your name?" he asked gently, kneeling down to their level. "Mia," the shy one replied, her voice trembling. "This is Lily." Jake's heart clenched. The two girls, bundled in mismatched coats, were waiting for a family. It reminded him of dark days, a time when scarcity loomed over his family. As he learned about their situation, their hard-working mother struggling to provide, the tears in Mia's eyes and the stoic, brave smile on Lily's face tugged at him. He imagined their cries for comfort, echoing against the walls. Here were scavengers of hope, thriving despite hardship. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their laughter soon filled the room as they shared stories and dreams of a brighter tomorrow, and for a heartbeat, Jake felt alive. But little did he know, the fragile connection would ignite skepticism. Whispers soon spread among the locals. Could a wealthy man like him truly grasp the reality of their lives? They speculated, concerned about his motives. Could he be just another added layer of privilege? The tension mounted, pitting Jake's well-meaning intentions against the community's distrust. With the prospect of adoption in the air, a potential resolution injected hope into their hearts. Yet each fleeting moment of light was met with shadows of doubt. Could a billionaire provide what Mia and Lily really needed: love and security, or were they just another charity case? As ambient whispers churned around him, Jake's chest tightened. This wasn't just about money, it was about understanding, connection, family. He felt his life spiraling, a delicate balance hanging in the air, with the twins' hope shining like a single candle in the vast darkness. Just then, the door swung open. The girl's mother stood there, eyes wild, bringing a storm of questions and fears. Jake was left teetering on the edge. Was this love? Or just another barrier between them? The twins looked up at him, searching for reassurance in a world so fragile and real. Would Jake's American dream save them, or would it tear them apart? As Jake stared into the eyes of the girl's mother, a surge of emotions rushed through him. He noticed the way her hands trembled, gripping the doorframe as if she might crumble at any moment. He could feel the weight of her desperation hook onto his heart, pulling him close while pushing him away. There was a storm within her, and he realized the battle raged not just for the twins' future, but for her own sense of worth. "Mia. Lily." She called, her voice cracking, breaking through the chatter and laughter in the shelter. Both girls dashed into her arms, relief flooding their tiny faces. Jake felt a pang of envy at their instant reaction, longing for the same unadulterated connection. He hesitated, unsure of what to say, feeling the air thicken with questions lingering in every corner. "Are you here to take them away?" The mother spat, fear palpable in her tone. It cut like a knife through the warmth that had recently enveloped him. His intentions felt suddenly fragile, as if he stood before a judge without a defense. "No," Jake said softly, gathering his courage. "I want to help. I want to understand. Your girls, they deserve the world, just like any other kids." Her gaze hardened, eyes narrowing in disbelief. He could see the thoughts racing behind those tired eyes. Who was he, a billionaire with his shiny cars and glossy life, offering help? Did he truly appreciate what they had gone through? Behind them, the murmurs of more skeptical onlookers filled the air. What did he really know about their struggles? A rich man didn't he belong here, they thought, even as he knelt on that worn floor, the remnants of old linoleum comforting under his knees. Mia and Lily clung to their mother, and Jake could see their small frames trembling. The bond between them was a fierce mixture of love and fear, a taut string that might snap with the slightest push. Every part of Jake screamed to soothe them, to be the fortress they needed, but he sensed the fragility of the very moment they were living. "Look," Jake pressed, trying to break through her guard. "I've faced hardships too. I know what it's like to feel lost." As he spoke, he opened up, sharing tidbits of his own childhood, his mother working overtime, long days and even longer nights that pressed against their fragile existence. He watched as a flicker of curiosity sparked in the mother's eyes, but it was fleeting. She still stood there, tense, the unforgiving spotlight of doubt surrounding her. "But you'll just take them from me, won't you? Just like everyone else." Her voice dipped into the territory of sorrow, her fears spilling over like a glass brimming with water, ready to topple. At that moment, Jake felt like a stranger in a world where he didn't belong. He could feel the locals' eyes burning into him, scrutinizing his every move. Yet here he was, entangled in their lives, asking for a chance that could slip away in an instant. But as he looked at the twins, so innocent, so hopeful, he knew his path had to intersect with theirs. He had to find a way to win their trust, not just with wealth but with understanding. The silence enveloped them, heavy and thick, as the reality of the heroine's struggle enveloped the room. Then, without warning, Mia whispered something to Lily, her small hand squeezing her sister's tight. Jake caught the exchange, the tiny flicker of hope that ignited between them. This was more than a test of relationship, it was a chance to build a lifeline, strong enough to weather the storms ahead. "Let me prove to you that I'm not what you think," Jake urged, his heart racing. "I want to help you all, together." Just as he spoke the words, the twins' mother's expression shifted, uncertainty battling with something softer buried beneath hope. But before she could respond, the shelter door swung wide again, and a man stepped in, a figure from the past, someone Jake recognized all too well. The weight of the moment shifted once again, and the tension now crackled with the possibility of change. What had he brought back into their lives? In the depths of uncertainty, with hearts laid bare. Could they rise from the shadows together? What secrets would this newcomer unveil? Jake's heart raced, his thoughts a chaotic swirl as the man stepped into the shelter. There was something hauntingly familiar about him, a ghost from a past he had tried to leave behind. As the man made his way through the sea of weary faces, Jake's focus sharpened, his grip on the moment tightening. "Is that?" he murmured to himself, but before he could analyze further, the man fixed his piercing gaze on him. Recognition dawned in the man's expression, followed by a tight-lipped smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Matt," the man said, his voice low but unmistakable. "It's been a while." Jake swallowed hard. Matt was more than just an acquaintance, he was a part of a life that felt long gone. A life of sleepless nights and reckless decisions that had led Jake to where he stood now, an unexpected philanthropist in a shelter, trying to forge connections. "Yeah, it has," Jake replied, struggling to keep his tone steady. There was a tension in the air, a heavy weight he hadn't known he'd brought with him. Matt stepped closer, his eyes flicking to the mother and the girls. "I see you found your way here. Interesting to see you so involved." A bitter taste rose in Jake's mouth. "I'm trying to help. They need it." "Help?" Matt's laugh was sharp, like a blade. "Come on, Jake. You know these people. They're not like us. You really think you can make a difference?" The twins' mother was silent, her gaze pressing into Jake as if searching for reassurance. The flicker of hope in her eyes felt fragile. Jake fought the internal battle. He could feel Matt's words sharpening, cutting into the heart of his intentions. I don't know everything, but I do know they deserve a chance. Chance? Matt mocked, glancing at the mother and girls. They don't take kindly to rich men playing saviors here. You'll get burned. The air crackled with unspoken accusations. Every face turned toward Jake, the weight of their scrutiny as suffocating as the heat in the room. He glanced back at Mia and Lily, their innocence a bright light against the somber backdrop. I won't let that happen suddenly. The mother stepped forward, drawing on a deep well of courage. They're not yours to save, she said, her voice trembling but strong. My daughters, we just want to be free of this burden. Her words hit Jake like a freight train. He gulped, the hunger to help clashing with the realization that they weren't waiting for someone to swoop in like a hero. They were striving to reclaim their lives, each day an uphill battle. Was he really prepared to carry that weight? Matt's expression shifted, breathless with realization. You think you can relate to them? To their struggle? Maybe not completely, Jake responded, his own voice firmer than he felt. But I can learn. I want to learn. The room fell silent, a collective breath held as if waiting for what would happen next. There was a tipping point lurking in the air, a moment that could steer Jake closer to understanding or farther away from it all. And then, as if fate itself decided to intervene, a loud crash echoed from the back of the shelter, drawing everyone's attention. An abandoned chair fell over, followed by the hurried footsteps of a teenager rushing in. He looked wild-eyed, out of breath. Something's happened outside. He called out, panic lacing his words. Jake turned, heart pounding. The room shifted, worry blooming, faces turning towards the door. What fresh chaos had just entered their world? Jake felt the rising tide of uncertainty again, but this time it was mingled with a sense of urgency. Would this moment push them all together or pull them apart? The stakes rose, deepening the shadows of the evening. Jake's heart raced as he caught the frantic urgency in the teenager's voice. He turned and scanned the room, the weight of apprehension filling the air like an impending storm. What do you mean? What has happened? Jake asked, his voice steady but anxious. The teenager, still catching his breath, stepped closer. There's a fight outside. A couple of guys pushing everyone around. It looks bad. His eyes darted around, desperation etched on his face. They might come in here. The collective tension shot through the room. Anxiety rippled among the mothers, their fears clear in their wide eyes. The twins clung to each other, seeking comfort in their small world that suddenly felt all too threatening. Stay calm, everyone, Jake urged, raising his hands, an instinctive gesture meant to bring assurance. We're going to be okay. Just what, Jake? Matt interjected, his tone biting. You can't shield them from everything. What are you even doing here? Jake felt anger bubble up but stifled it, focusing on the girls. Don't worry, Mia and Lily. We'll get through this together. The mother of the twins stepped closer, eyes fierce yet frightened. I can't let anything happen to my girls. I can't go back to. Her voice trailed off, a mix of fear and vulnerability. Matt observed quietly, a blend of curiosity and contempt swirling beneath his cool facade. The atmosphere in the room grew heavier, the air charged with the uncertainty of what might come through that door. Jake felt the need to act, to be more than just a hesitant bystander. Let us see what's going on, he decided, glancing at the teenager. Lead the way. As they moved towards the exit, Jake steeled himself for whatever awaited them outside. The clamor of voices grew louder, the clash of anger, the sounds of something breaking. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of the shelter's fears clung to his back. When they reached the door and Jake pushed it open, chaos erupted before him. Outside, a group of young men loomed, shoving people aside, their shouts echoing off the shelter's walls. The air crackled with a mixture of impatience and hostility. Get out of the way. One of them bellowed, swaggering forward as if he owned the space. Jake's heart pounded, a new hunger blossoming within him, a yearning to protect those inside, to do something real. He stepped forward, putting himself in front of the group, instincts kicking in. Hey! You need to leave. He shouted, voice firm, surprising even himself. The young men froze, their laughter dying down as they glanced at Jake, expressions shifting from dismissal to interest. The leader scoffed, who the hell are you? Jake felt the tension in the air, but he held his ground, standing tall. Just someone who won to let you bully these people. The moment hung on a knife's edge, the weight of his words striking a chord. The room behind him fell silent as everyone watched, suspended in disbelief. As the leader stepped closer, fists clenched, the moment crystallized into clarity for Jake. He realized something profound. This was not about heroics or saving, it was about standing firm with those who were scared, about sharing their fight. Just turn around and walk away, Jake commanded, feeling the surge of courage rising within him. For a heartbeat, the leader's gaze flickered. Maybe it was the resolve in Jake's eyes or the proximity of the shelter's residents behind him that caused a crack in his confidence. But just as quickly, that flicker faded. We'll see about that, he chuckled darkly, backing away, but the threat had shifted. Jake stood, chest heaving with adrenaline, watching as the group retreated, but not without leaving fear hanging in the air like a dark cloud. He couldn't shake the sense that while the moment had passed, the danger was over, not for him, nor for the shelter. As shadows danced under the streetlights illuminating the chaos outside, Jake turned back toward the shelter, feeling the weight of not just their fear but their hope too. What would come next? More confrontation? Or perhaps a deeper understanding that could push him even closer to his purpose? In that uncertain moment, Jake glanced at Matt, who seemed to hover on the brink of a decision, something flickering behind his guarded eyes. Would this confrontation lead them both to redefine their paths? Jake had no answers, just a heart full of questions. What did you learn from all this? Matt asked quietly, breaking the silence like a detonator. Jake's mind raced, but one thought prevailed as he stood there. Not every battle was fought with fists. Perhaps it was time to discover what truly lay beneath the surface of this community. Would he find the courage to face what was coming, or would the shadows of his past pull him back? Jake's heart was still racing from the encounter, but the adrenaline began to fade, leaving a hollow chill in its wake. He looked around. Mothers, children, all still on edge, unsure whether danger lingered just outside. Their eyes were wide, faces taut with worry. In the aftermath of the loud confrontation, silence spread like a heavy blanket, oppressive and thick. Everyone, let us move back inside, Jake instructed, voice steady, wanting to project calm even though his own stomach churned. They shuffled back, the twins tightly fisting their mother's hands, eyes darting nervously. As they settled into the safety of the shelter, Jake found Matt's gaze lingering on him. There was a question there, unasked but apparent. It glimmered in the tension between them, a flickering candle in the dark. Jake turned, ensuring the women and children were huddled in a safe corner. Then he stepped closer to Matt. What? Matt shifted uncomfortably. You just stood up to them. You think that was smart? His brow furrowed in skepticism, as if searching for loopholes in bravery. I think it was necessary, Jake replied, breathing a little easier now that they were inside. Somebody had to do it. Right, Matt shot back, disbelief coloring his tone. But what if they come back? What if they don't just walk away? The shadows from outside still loomed large in Jake's mind. He met Matt's gaze, feeling the weight of the question. What if? Anxiety twisted his gut again. I can't back down. Not now, he said, frustration creeping into his voice. These people need someone who'll stand with them. Matt shifted his weight, eyes narrowing as he observed Jake. Fine, but standing your ground doesn't mean you're invincible. One wrong move, and you could put all of us in danger. Jake gritted his teeth for a second. It was true, but so was what he had felt in that moment. A strange tempest of fear and courage converged inside him, igniting his sense of purpose. I know that, but I also know. I can't let people just push others around. Not anymore. Murmurs around the room increased, the mothers whispering anxiously while keeping their children close. Mia and Lily remained quiet, huddled together. Jake's heart tightened at the sight. He thought of their earlier fears, how they clutched each other, and it made his resolve stronger. In an attempt to lighten the mood, he crouched down to the twins' level. Hey, you two. Do you like magic? They blinked at him, confused by the abrupt shift from tension to whimsy. Magic? Lily echoed, tilting her head. Absolutely. Watch. Jake exclaimed, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a coin. He flipped it, and it spun through the air. I'm going to make this disappear. They watched, wide-eyed and curious. With a flick of his wrist, he pushed it into his other palm. Abracadabra. Jake played it up, pretending to take a breath. As he revealed the empty hand, their mouths fell open. Voila! Their laughter rippled through the room, brightening the atmosphere like sunshine piercing clouds. He grinned, caught up in their delight. But his smile faded as he caught sight of the open door again. The threat hadn't entirely dissolved, it lurked just beyond. Matt cleared his throat, drawing Jake's attention back. Listen, I get it. You want to protect them. But we need a plan. We can't stay here forever hoping they're gone. Jake straightened up, steeling himself to confront the reality they faced. Plan for what, Matt? To wait for them to come and terrorize us again? We have to be proactive. What were you thinking? Matt questioned, his tone clipped. I don't know yet, Jake admitted, frustration bubbling beneath his calm surface. But I want to hide. Not when they're frightened. As he spoke, the door creaked open slowly. Every head turned, breath held. They had just regained a semblance of safety, and now, it felt fragile. A silhouette appeared in the doorway. The air thickened with anticipation. Where's the leader? A rough voice called from the dark. Fear trickled back into the hearts of the room's occupants like ice water. Jake's pulse quickened again, and Matt stepped slightly ahead, positioning himself as a reluctant barrier. Suddenly, Jake understood, the fight wasn't over. It had just begun. But who stood against them? And what truth were they willing to reveal now? What do they want? He whispered to Matt, a slight tremor seeping into his voice. Matt shook his head, eyes full of uncertainty. I don't know, but we better be ready. A deep breath in, a deep breath out. This was it, the tension was building again like before. Would they confront the intruder, or fall victim to fear? As Jake squared his shoulders, he felt adrenaline surge once more, this time fueled by something deeper than anxiety. It was the determination to protect the small glimmers of hope in the eyes around him. What would happen next? Jake felt buzzing questions lining up in his mind as he stepped forward, ready to face whatever came through that door. The figure at the door stepped forward, revealing a man with a hardened face and piercing eyes. He scanned the small shelter, taking in the cluster of terrified faces. Jake felt every muscle in his body tense, ready for whatever was about to unfold. Again, where's the leader? The man demanded, his voice low, grating against the fragile atmosphere. Jake swallowed hard, trying to gauge the situation. Fear seeped into the edges of his resolve. Without hesitation, he took a step forward, meeting the intruder's gaze head-on. I'm the one you want, he said, trying to keep his voice steady, though he could feel it shaking. Smart choice, the man smirked, crossing his arms, an air of arrogance surrounding him. We have business to discuss. Whatever you're here for, we don't want any trouble, Jake replied, holding his ground, though he could hear Matt muttering behind him, urging him to back down. Trouble? That's not what I'm after, the man said, eyebrows raised. In fact, I'm offering you a deal. A quiet buzz of confusion ran through the room. Mothers exchanged worried glances, the children clutched tighter to their sides. What kind of deal? Jake asked cautiously, unwilling to show his uncertainty. The man leaned closer, a sly grin creeping across his face. You heard about us, didn't you? The ones bringing order to the chaos around here. He looked around at the faces, gauging their reactions. Join us, and you could have protection for you and these little ones. Jake's stomach twisted. Join you? You're terrorizing everyone. Why would we ever want that? The man shrugged, as if it were all a game. Because without us, you'll be just a wreck of frightened faces in the dark. We give strength a chance to fight back against whatever is out there. His voice dropped to a whisper. You don't know what's really happening in this city. We do. You think standing your ground will save them? It won't. We can help. But only if you agree. His words hung thick in the air, heavy with implications. Jake fought against the wave of doubt washing over him. Was there really a choice here? He could feel the tension building again, the flicker of hope mixed with despair. Matt took a step forward, his voice trembling with conviction. This isn't what we need. You can't just stroll in here and expect us to follow you without knowing what that means. The man's eyes narrowed, and Jake braced himself for a confrontation. Watch your tone. He took a quick step forward, asserting a frightening dominance. You're all just hiding here, waiting blindly for something terrible to happen. We have a plan. We can protect you. Jake's heart raced as pieces began to click. The reality that there was a deeper danger outside these walls tugged at his conscience. His instincts screamed against this man, but how could he deny the fear surrounding him? What's in it for you? Jake challenged. You claim to protect us, but at what cost? A flicker of annoyance crossed the man's face, quickly replaced with satisfaction. That's the spirit. You will learn quickly. But it's a decision one that you must make now. Jake exchanged nervous looks with Matt. The room felt overloaded with options, a pressing moment to choose between safety in numbers or holding on to their independence. What if joining this man meant risking everything they stood for? But the idea of facing the dangers outside alone sent chills down his spine. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the faint sounds of footsteps echoed from the darkness behind the man. It was only a few seconds, but they were seconds laden with dread. Jake's heart pounded like a drum. More were coming. What's happening? He whispered, eyes darting back to the figure before him. Before any answer could come, a voice boomed from the shadows. You think you can ask my men for anything without consequences? Panic swept through Jake again. The stakes had suddenly escalated, and the sense of urgency was palpable. How deep did this web of danger stretch? What lay waiting just beyond their fragile sanctuary, and would they dare stand against it together? Jake knew. Then that his choice would define not only his fate but the fates of everyone gathered around him. Jake felt the air thicken as another figure stepped into the dim light of the shelter. This one was larger, more imposing, casting a long shadow that blanketed the frightened faces around him. The tension wrapped around the room, pulling tighter with each heartbeat. The man was flanked by two more, their expressions unreadable but menacing, eyes darting from Jake to the gathered families. What are you doing here? The newcomer barked, his voice cold and gravelly. All eyes shifted to the hardened man who had walked in first, the smirk now vanished. There's an opportunity here, the first man replied defiantly, voice shaky but with a flicker of bravado. I was just opportunity. You're courting disaster. The newcomer thundered, his words slicing through the uncertainty. The families flinched, mothers shielding their children from the looming threat. Jake's heart raced as he studied the scene unfolding before him. He felt the weight of his neighbor's fears, the vulnerability hanging thick in the air. He couldn't let this turn into a full-blown confrontation. Enough, Jake interrupted, stepping between the two men. His voice trembled but held a spark of resolve. We don't need to fight. We're just trying to keep our families safe. The glare from the newcomer narrowed. Safe. You think you're safe hiding here, waiting for someone to save you? You're just prolonging the inevitable. Panic turned into a churning storm within Jake. Was it true? Were they only delaying the reckoning by hiding away? Look, Jake said, forcing calm into his voice, we need to understand what's really happening out there. You want us to join you? He shifted, eyes speaking directly to the first man. Then tell us what's going on. What's the cost of this protection? The men exchanged glances, a silent conversation flickering like a flame in the darkness. The newcomer shifted, a semblance of annoyance evident on his face. Tell them nothing. They don't understand how this world works. Then educate us. Jake's frustration erupted. We're tired of hiding. If there's a plan, we want to hear it. The first man smiled again, a glimmer of respect mingling with his arrogance. You've got guts, kid. All right. Listen carefully, there's a faction out there that believes in building a new world. They're ruthless, cold-hearted, and they won't hesitate to make an example of us if we don't fight back. They've been taking families, spreading fear, and we stand as their only opposition. Join us, and you'll be a part of something larger. Jake's breath caught in his throat. And if we don't? Then you'll be one of their statistics. A wave of terror washed over the room. Mothers looked at their children, fear etched on their faces, while the weight of the truth began to settle upon Jake. The stakes had suddenly escalated, and the choice had never felt so heavy. Matt reached out, squeezing Jake's arm. We can't just jump in blind, Jake. We need more than a half-hearted promise. But the newcomer interjected. Your loyalty will either save you or doom you. Make your choice before it's too late. Jake studied each face around him, gauging the breadth of fear mixed with flickers of hope. What had started as a chance to save their families became a crossroad: choose acceptance or risk everything. The echoing footsteps from outside suddenly stopped. What now? A voice whispered, panic threading through the shelter once more. Jake turned to face the door, heart racing as shadows shifted just beyond. He could feel every eye locked on him. Would he lead them into the unknown or bow to fear? His voice, barely above a whisper, broke the silence. We don't have much time. Are we going to stand together? At that moment, the door burst open, revealing figures silhouetted against the dim light. Jake's breath quickened, realization dawning. Every decision he made from now on would push them closer to danger or long-awaited safety, but one thing was clear: this confrontation was just beginning. What awaited them outside? Would they stand united, even in the face of overwhelming odds? The door swung wide, and a chill swept through the shelter. Jake stood frozen, his heart thundering in his chest. The newcomers fanned out, forming a crude barrier between the frightened families and the outside world. They wore dark, tattered clothes, faces obscured in shadow, but Jake could feel the aura of danger radiating off them. What do you want? Jake's voice was surprisingly steady, cutting through the suffocating silence. The largest figure stepped forward. With shoulders squared and an intimidating glare, he was a physical embodiment of turmoil. We're here for the supplies, he stated bluntly, eyeing the room's meager stockpile. You all think you're safe in here? How long do you think that will last? Fear rippled through the group. The families were huddled together, breaths shallow, children whimpering against their mothers. Jake looked at Matt, who swallowed hard. This was a different kind of confrontation, one they had not prepared for. I want to let you take what little we have, Jake said, feeling a surge of protectiveness. These are kids in here. They don't deserve this. The newcomer laughed, though it was devoid of humor. You think you're a hero? This world doesn't reward good intentions. We need to survive, and you're in the way. Suddenly, the first man from moments ago, the one with the flicker of respect in his eyes, stepped forward too. Wait. We can help each other. He turned back to the newcomer, determination hardening his features. You need our supplies, but we need protection. Let us talk. Jake sensed a shift. Maybe this was their chance. He edged closer to the first man, desperation clinging to his voice. What do you mean? You can protect us. The first man nodded. We patrol these areas and fight the factions trying to take control. If you align with us, we can safeguard your families. For a moment, Jake's mind raced. The danger was still pressing down, and trust was an expensive currency, but this was an offer that could give them a fighting chance. The newcomer smirked. And what makes you think you can protect them, huddled in here with nothing to fight back? His challenge hung heavy in the air. We can gather information and resources. We have kids and families to protect. If we don't do this together, we're all dead anyway. Jake insisted, surprised at the strength of his own conviction. Silence fell. The weight of the decision poised like a sword above them. Families looked from Jake to the strangers, eyes wide with uncertainty. Suddenly, a young voice piped up from the back, cutting through the tension. What if we work together? Can we really keep each other safe? A girl of about 12 stepped forward, her face hardened with bravery beyond her years. Her small hands gripped the edge of the table, and her fierce gaze darted between Jake and the intruders. In that moment, Jake felt a flicker of hope. If a child could stand up, so could he. Listen, Jake said, turning to both groups. We have two choices: we can continue to hide and wait for them to come for us, or we can band together and fight back. Who's in? The newcomer hesitated, his hardened features softening ever so slightly. It was a glimmer of possibility, but Jake couldn't be certain of their motives. Suddenly, another loud noise broke through the air. A series of gunshots echoed in the distance, jolting everyone into a new reality. The tension escalated again, hearts racing as the threat grew closer. Jake's eyes darted to the families around him, the little girl still standing firm, hope glistening in her eyes. It was time to act, but he knew the path ahead was fraught with danger. Will you fight with us? He shouted, feeling the weight of their trust resting on his shoulders, the air thick with uncertainty. The largest figure moved back to assess the newcomers, the battle lines still drawn. Would this be the moment they finally found unity, or would fear tear them apart again? As the echoes of gunfire faded, hope and dread battled within Jake. What awaited them in this new alliance? Would standing together bring them the safety they craved, or lead them further into chaos? The air crackled with tension as Jake stared at the large figure, and uncertainty flickered in his gut. Was it madness to trust these strangers? To believe that they could stand together against the storm circling outside? Then, the soft voice of the brave girl broke the stillness again. I think we can do this, she repeated, glancing at her family huddled close. Together. Her words ignited something in Jake. It pushed back the fear that had woven itself tightly around his heart. In that moment, he understood what truly mattered, not just survival, but the fight for something better, something that could still exist among the ruins. Together, he echoed, locking eyes with the young girl, feeling a new energy surge through him. The newcomer shifted slightly, his demeanor wavering. What do you propose? A division of the supplies? Mutual protection? He challenged, testing their resolve. Exactly, Jake replied quickly. He could almost hear the whisper of hope in his own voice. We share what little we have, we look out for each other. We create a system where we're stronger together. I'm not saying it'll be easy, but it's a start. The tension in the newcomer's face seemed to crack ever so slightly. And if we trust you, and you betray us? He scanned the room, the uneasy faces of Jake's group screaming out their fear of outsiders. I promise you, these families stand together, Jake asserted, raising his voice above the whispering doubts. We won't let fear guide our choices anymore. We have kids to protect. They deserve more than just survival. A ripple passed through the gathered people. Matt's hand tightened on Jake's shoulder, nodding slowly as if to say he understood. It was a small act, but it set off a wave of agreement, small murmurs of encouragement filling the room. The large figure weighed the options carefully. "What is your name?" "Jake," he replied, chest swelling with a mix of pride and fear. "And mine is Dalton." He extended his hand reluctantly. "You show us what you've got, Jake." Jake reached for Dalton's hand, firm and steady, sealing a fragile pact born from desperation. More murmurs erupted, the families behind him quietly agreeing. With that act, a bond had been forged. As the two groups began to talk, sharing information and resources, a sense of urgency pulsed in the background. Gunshots, louder and closer, crackled in the distance again, snapping Jake back to the harsh reality outside. He couldn't let this chance slip through his fingers. "We can start gathering materials now, reinforcing this shelter. We work through the night if we have to." He glanced around at the wary faces filled with both fear and hope. "For our kids. For our families. Let us move, then," Dalton commanded, his voice cutting through the nerves. He thrust his chin towards the door. The newcomers, despite their earlier standoffishness, rallied with surprising determination. As they began to gather supplies from the shelter, Jake felt an odd sensation settling in, a mixture of exhaustion, adrenaline, and an ember of hope glowing in the darkness. Then came the bright flash. The sound of shattering glass echoed, shrouding them all in dread as they dove for cover. What was that? A voice cried out, panic rising. Jake felt his heart race again, but even in the midst of chaos, in the rawness of their shared fear, he caught a glimpse of the little girl's face. She had turned towards him, determination set in her eyes. "What do we do now?" she asked, leaning forward like she was ready to follow him anywhere. Jake found himself smiling, despite the dread that loomed close. "Now, we defend. Together, and we won't back down." As the echoes of chaos seemed to close in, Jake knew they stood at a precipice. The fight was on, and his heart raced not with fear, but with the resolve to protect their fragile unity. Would they hold true to their new alliance, or would the storm outside shatter what little hope they had left? The night was filled with chaos, the air thick with uncertainty and danger. Jake stood at the threshold of fear and determination. Glass shattered outside the shelter, and the families huddled in fear, but within Jake, a fierce resolve ignited. They could stand together, or they could let this storm tear them apart. The time for hesitation was over. "Dalton!" Jake called out, his voice cutting through the noise of panic. "We need a plan. We can't just react, we must take control." Dalton met Jake's eyes, a flicker of mutual understanding passing between them. "Right. We reinforce the doors and windows. Everyone who can hold something, grab whatever supplies you have." With that, Jake sprang into action. He rushed to the nearby tables, collecting heavy chairs and wooden planks. Others followed suit, their fear beginning to transform into focus and energy. The mothers and fathers worked furiously, moving supplies to block the windows. Nearby, Mia and Lily clung to their mother, their anxious faces slowly relaxing as they watched the adults rally. Jake felt a surge of strength from their presence. "We're doing this for them," he reminded himself, glancing at the twins, and the other children nearby. That flicker of hope in their eyes fueled his every movement. "Jake! You need to see this!" Matt shouted over the commotion, pointing towards the window. Jake rushed over and peered outside. A crowd had gathered. The same men who had threatened them earlier were regrouping, whispering to one another, plotting. "What are they planning?" Jake whispered to Matt, fear lapping at his insides. "I don't know, but we can't underestimate them," Matt replied, scanning the area, his brow knitted with concern. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed as someone kicked the shelter door. Uncertainty crumbled beneath Jake's feet. "Get back! Secure the windows, we won't let them in!" he yelled, pushing the last chair into place. Exerting every ounce of courage, he faced Matt. "Are you ready?" "I'm with you, man. Let us do this." The door shuddered again, splintering slightly as tremors ran through the bodies of the gathered families. Jake felt breathing deepen, hearts pounding in synchronicity. They were on the precipice of something greater than fear, they were a collective force, and as threats crescendoed outside, so did their courage. Through the chaos, Jake spotted the little girl who had stood up earlier. Her fierce blue eyes shone with determination as she joined them, raising her small arms defiantly. "We won, let them win," she declared, her voice unwavering. "Right," Jake replied, his spirit buoyed by her bravery. "Together, we're stronger." And in that moment, the door crashed open, sending splinters flying. The shadows rushed in, but Jake was prepared. He stepped forward like a wall, filled with hope and rage. "You will not take what's ours," he shouted. Shouts of confusion erupted from the intruders. They didn't expect resistance. "What the hell?" one of them started, but Jake interrupted, stepping forward into the light, his heart racing but steady. "Together," he roared, rallying everyone who stood behind him. The families surged, shoving furniture, and blocking the door. Force met force, heart against malice. That was the moment it transformed. Fear turned to conviction, chaos shaped into unity. Light surged through the darkness. The echoes of gunfire sounded, but they resonated with strength. Jake held the door steady against the onslaught, adrenaline blazing through his veins. "Keep it secure," he yelled. "We won, back down." With each effort, they rallied together, life and strength intertwining. Jake felt something shift within. He wasn't just standing for himself anymore, he was standing for Mia, for Lily, for every life in that shelter that deserved light and love. The intruders hesitated, sensing the change. Shouting their own threats, they clamored at the door and the windows, but the collective force of family and hope pressed back. "Push," Jake commanded, exerting force they barely realized they had. What came next was not just a fight, it was a declaration of resilience. As they formed an unbreakable wall of unity, Jake felt the warmth of tears mixing with adrenaline, fear mingling with the budding hope that fired every soul in the room. In this moment, they found strength in each other, an unyielding spirit that no threat could extinguish. "Hold together," Jake called, feeling his heart thudding to the rhythm of their resolve, and as the battle of wills unfolded, it painted a wide arc of determination against overwhelming odds. They were not just defending a shelter. They were crafting strength, embracing identity, thriving together in a flickering moment of truth. Every shout from outside faded to the background, every fear that whispered in the shadows dimmed against their fierce will to hold true. Hope blazed a trail forward. In the heart of conflict, hearts united. The shelter's walls stood firm, filled to the brim with unwavering conviction, this community would hold, and together they would fight. Each fierce breath, each forceful push, turned into a powerful promise they were alive, they were together, and they weren't going anywhere. As dawn approached, casting the first light on their united front, hope filled every fissure of the shelter's walls. The perspective of what had seemed impossible shifted to empowerment. "Together," Jake whispered, knowing it resonated beyond their fragile shelter, weaving through the cracks into the dawn of a new day, where fear no longer held dominion. And as the first light washed over a collective spirit, Jake looked at the faces surrounding him, determined, fierce, and full of life. They had claimed their moment of transformation, they would not hide, they would not yield. They would rise, from that moment on, they would face the future together, their dreams and spirits unbreakable. Now, it's your turn to be a part of this story. Be a champion of connection and support by subscribing immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive tales of hope and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and amplify these stories. Your engagement truly matters. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your voice. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. It's time to spread the light. Join this journey now, don't wait not even one more second to support the channel and be part of our community.